Yeah, I mean, there's a few ways that one can kind of determine the quality of anyone at their line of work. The first obvious example is how many other people recommend them, and this is kind of where case studies and social proof comes in. And this has always been something. It always will be something that matters. Every single person on the planet, or one very important person, recommends the work that you do. Like if Alex from Aussie sent me a recommendation saying this guy is the best go-to-market engineer on the planet, I would probably get a lot of business from that. Or if I got 100 people saying that I was really, really good at what I do. But negative energy is a lot faster at spreading than positive energy. So if you let one bad person into the community, it can kind of ruin that whole vibe that I've tried to create for the past few months. So I'm really, really selective about the people that I let in and the quality of the people that I let in. And I always try and make sure that the way I grew it so fast was I focused on getting people that other people really respected in the space. And also people in my own personal network. That's it. Yeah, that's exactly why I came to you. And I got all of them into the community, and then it's a lot easier for you to get everyone else into the community because they're like, okay, do you want to join a community that has Johannes? And everyone's like, yes, I would love to join the community with Johannes. And then then everyone else kind of joins naturally because they hear about it online or on LinkedIn. And then everyone wants to join.
Welcome everybody to the Agency Breakthrough Podcast. Today with a great guy that I already know since a few years from Agency Velocity, where we got to know each other. And I'm super happy that he's here. He just also started the Clay Club Europe, where he will tell us for sure a little bit more about it. Especially because I believe there's a lot of viewers here that you guys maybe are doing clay, so maybe you would even like to join the Clay Club Europe that he just created. And so yeah, welcome Ruadhan. Do I spell it correct like this? Yeah.
It's a difficult name. It's like the end of kangaroo and the end of lawn. Ruadhan.
Ruadhan. All right, so I always say it wrong, man. I gotta say so it's Ruadhan. Welcome, Ruadhan, to the Agency Breakthrough Podcast. Let me tell the people a little bit about you, what you're doing, and so on. To know you a little bit better.
Yeah, so I'm Ruadhan. I'm based in the west of Ireland. I'm 19 years old, and I run a go-to-market engineering agency. I service B2B SaaS companies. And I also run Clay Club Europe, and I'm studying mechanical engineering in university as well for now.
A lot of things, brother. You have a lot on your plate. But how do you manage all of that, though?
Very good question. A very, very, very good question. A lot of systems, and it's all about leverage and priorities. I mean, the whole reason I have Clay Club Europe is it's because it's another lever that I can use on behalf of the agency. And then there's a whole reason that I'm studying engineering as well as doing everything, but that's more a question of why I chose to do it in terms of actually managing my time. It is quite difficult. There are periods where I just need to, and I get a lot of work done, sacrifice a lot of normal life things. Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit sick at the minute. That was because for the past 2 weeks, I haven't really been sleeping all that much. There's a lot of reasons. You kind of need to sacrifice a lot to be able to do all of this at once. Mm-hmm. It won't last forever, so.
Mm-hmm. I imagine, I'll be honestly, yeah. And specifically, because you're 19, I mean, you're young as well, right? So what about your free time? You're 19, you're like a teenager, do you have a lot of time to hang out with your friends and girlfriend or whatever? Is there any space in your life for something like that? Or how does it look like here?
I mean, it's like what we were talking about before. You make time for what matters. I work really, really hard for generally periods of 2 to 3 weeks. And then I kind of burn out for a while and I take a weekend off and I'll just kind of go crazy, or I'll go out on a wild night out, meet up with all my friends, and then I'll kind of go back at it again. That's kind of, it's probably not the healthiest way to work. That is kind of how I work nowadays.
Work out, play hard.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah. I mean, honestly, this is also something that I always tell to people. If you're 19, you know what I mean? You also want to enjoy life a little bit. It's not just work. Because one day you wake up, it's fuck me, where did my youth go? You know what I mean? And you also don't want to do that. So I think exactly. That's why. But this balance, what you want to call it, whatever. People could say it's not a good thing to do that. But I'm, I would say this kind of balance is not a bad thing, because otherwise, if you just work, what's the point on this? We are not living to work, right? We're working to live at the end. So I understand that you need to focus and you need to like, I'm like maybe a workaholic as well. I don't know. Like I don't like to call myself that, but I love working, right? But like I also really love enjoying my free time. I really do. And like, for example, some things that I started doing is like, for example, Saturday, I'm not working at all. Like Sunday, I consciously take a day off where I'm not even opening my laptop. And I think that was something for me that changed a lot, because last year at the end of 2025, I was almost dreading having by burnout as well, where I decided, that no, not at the end of 2000, end of 2025, four it was exactly. So where I decided that I need to go a little bit back, and that's when I decided to say like Saturdays I take completely off, and that's what I did since then. And this is really, it's like something that I highly recommend people doing, especially when you do so much. Just take one day where you do consciously nothing. And just really enjoy time with your loved ones, especially with my wife. I mean, like, bless her, but like she doesn't see a lot from me, right? Even if I work in the same house, but and so that's why, like, really spend some time with your loved ones, spend some time with your girlfriend, with your wife, with your family, with your friends, and do this consciously. Also, that you say like, you know what, on this day I'm not working. I really do something for myself. This is something that helped me massively, for example, personally.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Okay. So what I wanted to ask you is like, so you're 19, you're doing all these kind of things. What drives you? Like, what's it like? For what are you doing all that?
Oh, well, that's a deep question. When I started, it was because I had a bunch of like personal and family issues. And when I was about 8 years old, I tried to take my own life, and I tried to take my own life when I was 10 years old. And then I got big into exercise. I developed anorexia. I was hospitalized several times. And then from that, then I went to therapy for a long time. It didn't really help much, and I just needed to find another kind of outlet or another addiction. And it ended up being business. So I was always a very creative person. The first business I started was a woodworking business. So before I even had a mobile phone, I started building like these wooden chopping boards, selling around my local village and to all of the teachers in my school. Then I started selling them all around Ireland. And then I realized, okay, listen, I'm making good money with this at a very, very young age, but I can't scale this. Like, there's only so many boards I can make. And then from that, I started an e-commerce store, didn't work. Then I started an influencer marketing agency, and that's kind of a glorified way of saying that I just reached out to about 3,000 influencers, got them all on like a speed dial list, and then used that as leverage to target these bigger companies and say, I've got 3,000 small influencers that are ready to promote products. I can create you in an affiliate program where I will take your affiliate link, put them in the bios of, say, 100 of these influencers. And every time there's a sale made, they make a commission, you get a sale, and I also get a small cut. So they don't have to trust this 13-year-old with any upfront capital. But I still make money from it over the course of 6 months. And that worked really, really well. But then I realized that I was really, really good at getting these big companies on calls. I started thinking, okay, because at the time, I mean, I was running cold email. I was doing automated Loom videos before it was a cool thing. I'm not sure if you're familiar with RoboMotion, but I built like this whole RoboMotion system where I was automating personalized videos. And then I ended up partnering with a guy from California named Luis, because I actually sent him a personalized video trying to sell him something on behalf of another company. We set up a cold email agency. We were running that for a while. We then joined Agency Velocity. That's how I met you guys.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we kept doing that for ages. It was going really, really well. We were growing very, very fast. But then we took on a bunch of, I wouldn't say bad clients, but clients that we shouldn't have taken on. We took on agencies that couldn't afford the retainer after the first month, even though we were bringing in money. We were running a performance offer for some really, really big companies, which was a terrible idea because the sales cycle was like 18 months for this tax relief. So if you spin up this humongous infrastructure to target half of the businesses in the US, run emails for all of them, and you have a performance offer, so you're not getting paid a dime. And then, yeah, the deal sizes, technically, the ACV was worth millions, but we never saw any of that. So then, yeah, eventually I just kind of got sick of that. Me and Luis parted ways. We're still good friends. And I just started operating as kind of like a so-called go-to-market engineer, a fractional engineer on behalf of other cold email agencies. So a lot of those cool case studies that you see on LinkedIn, I was a big part of a lot of them, and just building the clay tables and the lists and the automations behind a lot of that. And then recently, only in the last year, I got back into kind of the agency game because I realized it's an awful lot easier to sell, a lot easier to scale, because your value is directly associated with the amount of money that you can bring in for a company, which is a lot easier to scale. Ironically enough, I'm kind of moving back in the other direction again, but with bigger companies now. So I'm talking to a few PE firms and building the same systems, but just for bigger companies. So it's funny how that works out. But to answer your question, what drives me, initially it was just trying to escape from things and just kind of a natural outlet. And now at this stage, it's just something that I'm quite good at. Nothing really drives me. It's just kind of curiosity and constantly trying to solve problems. And also, if somebody pays you, you kind of have to fulfill on that work. So that's kind of what gets you up in the morning.
Interesting. I mean, if you don't mind me asking, obviously, because I'm really I'm shocked, first of all, from the point how you can be with 8 or 10 years and really wanting to take your life. Well, why did it happen? If I'm allowed to ask, I mean.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there was personal family issues and stuff that I won't talk about. But aside from that, I have very bad OCD. I'm not sure who's familiar with that condition. A lot of people just think it's like perfectionism. But it's actually, when it gets quite serious, it's quite a scary condition. And it's quite hard to describe. Basically, if we look at it from its definition, obsessive compulsive disorder, you get fixated with these thoughts that you can't control that come into your head. And if you think about like what your head is, it's how you perceive the entire world. So if something is constantly coming into your head, you can't escape it. And then you have these compulsions where you try and take these actions or do these things as a means of distracting yourself so that you can't think about these things. So an example would be, and it's different for every person, but an illustration of what this is like is you come home from school and you have a great day, you're walking in the door, and randomly just in your head, you get these visual, very graphic images of like your worst nightmare, something really horrible, like grotesque happening to a loved one. And it doesn't go away. It's looping, and it doesn't leave you. You can't escape it. And it kind of makes you question yourself as a person, because you know this is sickening, you know it's horrible. But then you also question, okay, why am I thinking like this? Why is this even coming up in my head? And as a way of trying to escape it, you go to the nearest thing that you can do to try and get rid of this thought, to try and distract yourself. So you go over, you start cleaning something, you start reorganizing things, you start just doing whatever is easiest to do to take your mind off of what is consuming it. So that could be reorganizing yourself. That could be like drinking water in a particular pattern. And it's just doing it compulsively because you need to do something to take your mind off of it. And sometimes it can be short, sometimes it can be really long. Like I remember for a lot of my childhood, like I'd be lying in bed and I wouldn't sleep at all the entire night because it's just a constant looping. And it can get really, really bad. Now, thankfully, I'm kind of at a stage now where it has gotten an awful lot better. So it's barely affecting my life, and that's kind of a mix, is my own ability to be able to deal with it, but then also just with age, some people kind of grow out of it a little bit, thankfully. But it's a horrible condition. It's very widely misunderstood. It's closer to schizophrenia than it is actually perfectionism.
Wow, man. Thanks for sharing this. I really appreciate that. This is crazy to hear that, to be honest. But I think it's awesome that you got out of it and really went over it, because I can imagine this. Like sometimes you have something similar as well. Obviously not far not like you have this, but I have this sometimes as well, that I have visions about things. Okay. And I know that very often they come true, which is also crazy. But like, for example, last time I saw something, like I had in my mind, I saw an accident that somebody basically went 180 and landed on the ceiling. And I had this in my mind, and 2 days later it happened to me, right? It was when I was 2 cars behind. I was like, fuck me, I saw this before, right? So I can imagine that if you have this in a way like you have that, because I mean, I have this sometimes, right? But if you have it like you have, also a very good friend that told me some similar thing like you. He had very similar thing. He always saw these things. He didn't want to see it. He was like, I don't want to fucking see it. I don't want to see it, right? And this was making him crazy as well. So he told me very similar stories, and I know how hard this can be. So, but I think it's great that you found your way out of it and could learn to control it, because I'm sure it's not easy. And that's like basically what drives you today. That you say, okay, you know what? There's so much more to life.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
The recovering from the OCD wasn't that. I mean, it was difficult, but it was mostly just luck. Like the fact that I managed to stay alive, and the fact that I managed to kind of grow out of it slightly when I was older. That's really what saved me from that. And finding exercise and training was a huge thing. Endurance sports. I do an awful lot of long distance running. And a lot of the training. Now, eventually that turned into its own problem because I just kind of used that as kind of an obsession, where I got big into training and it turned into, as I said, anorexia and training problems. I nearly messed up my hormones for good. As I said, I was hospitalized a few times. I have several injuries as a result. But that, like, actually recovering from that was a lot more mindful. I had to really, like, anorexia is that's a tough nut to crack. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but 70% of people who have anorexia don't survive. And 30% of the people who survive, only 30% of those people end up actually living a normal life afterwards. So it's another very widely misunderstood condition, because people think it's just, oh, I want to look skinnier or I want to lose weight. But it's actually a lot deeper than that, because if you think about what's actually happening, that the reason that somebody might want to lose weight or what triggers this condition is different for everyone. But normally, what is kind of the same is that you disassociate with reality. Like, you have this condition where all you can see is this one goal, and all of your natural, like, biological triggers and things that are telling you to stop turn off, and you completely disassociate with everything else in the world. And then when you finally snap out of that for whatever reason, you realize just how bad it's gotten and how far from reality you've been living for the past few years or months, however long you've had the condition. And that's really, really terrifying, because you realize how much pain you've caused your loved ones, and everything else. And that's really tough. And that's where most of my self-development actually happened, and my own learning and reflection actually came from. Both good and bad, because if you look at it from another perspective, one big thing that it taught me is just how much we're capable of by reframing how we look at things. Like, if you're capable as a person of turning off all of your biological safety mechanisms just to achieve this one goal of losing weight or looking leaner or whatever it is, and actually, like, ruining your body in the process. Imagine what you can do if you just decided, I want to achieve this one goal. Imagine what you can actually do there. You really do have so much power just by reframing how you look at life and how you look at problems. And I think, like, often a lot of the clients that I work with, one thing that they praise me on is, like, fundamental thinking and stuff. And like, I really do give full credit to those experiences that I had when I was younger. That's what gave me that ability. Because that's the only way that I would have been able to survive and kind of get out of those conditions, is being able to reflect on problems, fundamentally solve them one step at a time, and then also an ability to neglect the problems that I can't solve or I can't answer, which is also an equally important skill. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing this, man. That's really powerful. I was living together with a guy that had anorexia as well. Very bad. Don't even know if he's still alive, to be honest. I hope he is, but, like, it was super bad. And I was my personal trainer before as well. And I was working as a personal trainer, managing a fitness center. And this guy was the neighbor, and I was looking for a place. I was living with him for like a year or so, or like 9 to 10 months. Then I could not anymore, because I could not watch it anymore. I tried to help him, but it was not possible. And
it's really hard.
Yeah, it's like, I tried everything to help him. I brought him into the gym and did this and did that, and it was like, well, I don't know what to do, man. But he explained it to me like this. He said, like, this is the only thing that I can control.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like with OCD as well. It's all about control. Another way of looking at it. Again, these are all illustrations. It's very hard for somebody to kind of project what that life was like. So we kind of point to all of these illustrations. But another way of looking at it or framing at it is that you live your life without any control. without any control, you just get all of these things jumping into your brain, and you can't control when you can even go to sleep. You can't enjoy an experience with your loved ones. None of that is under your control. So you point to all of these different tasks or these compulsions, and you obsess over them as a means of, number one, distracting yourself, but also just as a means of control. If I can control any of these other things that are going in my head, well, then I can control how this looks, or I can control how good this is. And it's also what led me to kind of focus so much on school when I was younger and kind of getting good grades. It wasn't even because I cared about getting good grades, but it was getting closer and closer and closer to perfection because it was something that I could control. The more I studied, that's something I could control. And I think that's one big reason that I got anorexia in the end, and that I got so obsessed with exercise, is because exercise ended up just being my compulsion for OCD as opposed to being a replacement. It was actually both of them kind of working together. And it was that one thing that you can control. You can control how you look. It's like, it's the absolute control, controlling how your body functions. And then you get to a stage where, again, you disassociate from reality, and it's really, really hard to get somebody to knock themselves out of that position, because again, they turn everything off. That's all they care about. And it's the other problem with it is that it's both good and bad. Even when you take somebody out of that frame of mind, like, there are elements of that frame of mind that are healthy. They do want to develop themselves and make themselves better to a certain degree, and they do have control over their lives. So as somebody who's trying to help them, you need to first connect with them at their actual selves and get through all of that and the barriers. But then you also need to convince them, listen, you need to let go of this thing, the only thing in your life that you can control, for the sake of the longevity of your life. And in their own heads, like, normally people who suffer from these conditions are quite logical. And that's exactly why they suffer from them. It's because they're good at arguing with themselves and convincing themselves that what they're doing is the right decision. And yeah, it is really, really difficult.
Awesome. And I think I'm really, I'm grateful that you're sharing all these things, because it's not easy, I believe, for you to share these things. But I believe you can maybe help a lot of people that are in this situation right now, maybe listen to this. So, like, what would you give an advice to somebody that is in this situation? Like, what helped you to get over it or get out of it? Maybe not totally out of it, but at least control it.
Yeah. I mean, what actually helped me was a different way of looking at the problem itself, and realizing that not all problems have a right or wrong answer. And sometimes it's helpful to look at life from how close to right is this? Like, as if it's a calculus problem. But that's not helpful for people in this position, because that you need to change their whole way of looking at problems. What is helpful is, if you have any loved ones in your life, look back at years before any of this started, and look back at how their lives were, and now look at what they're like. And most often what you'll find is that their lives are a lot worse. And most of the time it's because of the things that you're doing to yourself, and the effects that that's having on those people. And so I think that the easiest way to get out of all of these internal battles is kind of looking externally and looking at how it's affecting other people, and then trying to fix those external problems. And when you focus on other people and how to help them, you inherently end up fixing your own problems. Because you actually, it's not from a selfish point of view, but you are very focused on everything that relates to your own self. When you start focusing on other people and become a lot more selfless, I guess, you actually end up fixing yourself quite a lot.
I love this. This is very beautiful. This is basically like, this is awesome, really. If somebody understands this message now, because this is what you say, like, when you are in this kind of situation, you only care about yourself. You only care about, you need to be skinny, you need to be this, you need to be that. It's the only thing what you care about is about yourself, and completely neglect other people's feelings around you.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the right word isn't neglect, because it's not that I didn't care about the people that I do love. Yeah. It's just that, like, your mind space is just taken up with these other things. It doesn't even come into your mind. So if anybody is watching this and they're in that state of mind where they actually aren't thinking about any of this stuff, even just the message, the reminder to look at everything else that's happening around you and realize there's so many other things that are happening. Even just that reminder can be enough to kind of knock somebody out of this frame of mind for a split second, which can often be enough to kind of get them to realize how messed up this actually is, and to kind of snap them out of it. And it's going to be really, really tough for a few weeks. but eventually they're going to start to realize how to live normally again. And anybody who has anorexia in particular, I don't expect for that to go away anytime soon. It takes months, if not years, for people to recover. Most people never even recover. It's very hard to look at food and exercise and living a healthy life the same way again, because you can't approach exercise or eating healthily the same way ever again. You always kind of need to lean into that direction and then pull yourself back again, so you don't lean too far in and jump back into that same frame of mind. Which is also something that I don't think enough people talk about. Because a lot of people start off healthy, go too far down, and then it's very hard to become healthy again when you recover, without kind of gaining a ton of weight or running into the opposite side of health problems. But yeah, like, listen, I'm not sure how much of the podcast you want this to be about, but I mean, it is a really interesting topic. I could talk about this for years.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is why, like, my podcast is raw and unscripted, and I said this before to Georgie as well. It can go always in every direction, but that's why I love it. That's exactly what makes humans, right? That is exactly what we do here. And like, I don't mind at all. It went in this direction for a reason. And there's maybe somebody, bro, if there's even 2, 3 people or even one person listening to this and it helps them, then fuck yeah, we did something amazing today.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I see it, right? So like, that's why I'm super grateful that you're sharing this, because you never know, maybe a lot of people watch this and they really get something out of it and we can help people. That's what it's all about. That's what you do, social media or whatever, because you really, like, you want to bring out your message and you want to help people. And if there's 1, 2, 3 people in there that say like, you know what, this really helped me, bro, then we did something, absolutely wonderful today. So I have zero problem to continue more into this direction. And I was just in general, obviously by myself interested, because like I said, I was living with this guy, and this guy, I don't know if he's still alive, to be honest. I don't know. He was like 190 or something like this tall, and he was weighing like 50 kilos.
Yeah.
And I was living next to him basically in his flat, and I was seeing him, and I was like, it was breaking my heart, bro. It was breaking my heart.
The other thing people don't talk about as well is, even when you do recover, some of the damage that you cause your body, like I was really, really lucky. I kind of recovered just in time, but if I was at the weight that I was for about a month longer, my hormones would be completely messed up. I would be infertile as a person. Like, it really messes a lot of your internal, like, my immune system is still shot. Like, I get sick all of the time now. It really messes up your whole body. Like, think about taking all of the nutrients from every internal organ and forcing all of that nutrition to be put into exercise and this training that your body is telling you you don't have enough energy to be doing this training, and you're still doing it. And then once you eventually snap out of that frame of mind, because that's the biggest thing, once you eventually snap out of it and you start gaining weight again and you get closer to a healthy weight, when a lot of this stuff is messed up and it's actually very difficult for you to live a normal life again, like, you kind of lose the will to want to live again for a very long time. Because I mean, what's like a lot of the arguments that you have with yourself are, what's the point in living if you can't even socialize with people anymore? You've lost all of those socialization skills. Like, I spent about a year redeveloping social skills. Like, throughout those developmental teenage years, a lot of that I spent by myself and not socializing. And it may sound small, but when you actually think about that, think about how much of those experiences shape how you talk to people, and how much of that you then need to relearn to be able to have normal human conversations and connection. And it's a big, big deal. And so that's another element of, even after you recover, there's a lot of mental stuff that you need to deal with in that recovery process to continue recovering and eventually see it through, and then eventually become healthy, because it is possible. If anybody's watching this, you will get back to normal eventually. It's just sometimes it can take such an unbearable length of time that it feels like it will never happen. But it does happen eventually. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah, thank you so much for saying this. All right, so good. Let's go into the thing that you do now, and also maybe tell us a little bit about like how the Clay Club thing started, because right now, how many people are in there? Like, because I'm like, you need to know, guys, so I'm a member also from the Clay Club that he started. Like, Clay is obviously getting massive now everywhere, right? Everywhere. GTM. I said last time, I said to our guys, like 1 year ago, nobody knew what a GTM engineer was. They're everywhere, coming out of the floor, right? They're everywhere as GTM engineers, and like, it's crazy. So like, well, maybe let's quickly touch on this. Like, what do you think about this development as well? Like, because like there's not really like any, like everybody can call themselves a GTM engineer, but I think a lot of people that, you know, it's not just sending a few cold emails, you're not a GTM engineer. Like, let's be real, right? There's a massive difference as well. And I think there's a little bit of a problem in the market right now because everybody calls themselves a GTM engineer. A real GTM engineer does not anymore get the recognition, what is it called? Recognize, whatever it is, right? Recognition, thank you. It's not my first my language, even if I speak very fast, but sometimes I'm missing. Like, I had an English friend here last time. It's like, Johannes, you're not mother tongue English, but you speak faster than me. I'm like, yeah, it can be. Right, so basically recognition. This is, I think, is a little bit of a problem for the people that are really good at what they're doing, that everybody calls themselves now a GTM engineer. What's your opinion on this?
I mean, I think the majority of this go-to-market engineering space are either just RevOps people who have changed their title because it's more attractive now, or they're people who have literally launched one cold email campaign and consider themselves a little bit more technical than creative, and now think that they're go-to-market engineers. I mean, a lot of this, I think, stems from a lack of clear definition on what the role is, and that stems from people not actually knowing what the role is. I think this role mainly originated from Clay. Clay kind of coined this term. So if we want to approach it like that, well, then I guess the go-to-market engineer would be somebody who's really, really good at building Clay-like systems. But I think what companies actually look for when they say a go-to-market engineer is somebody that can kind of build the systems that integrate specifically outbound, but also go-to-market motions in general with kind of their systems of record or their CRM and their overall other business functions. So it's not that different to a RevOps function. It's just a bit of a fancier title. But I mean, does that answer your question? What do I think of the role?
Yeah, in general also, like, but also what do you think about differentiation, for example, for somebody that like really is a good GTM engineer?
That is good at what they do.
Exactly. So, you know, it's difficult, right? Because there's like, everybody's a GTM engineer today. Like, what's special on you? So it's like, you know, like I saw Nathan, I think it's not Nathan, no, it was Pichalski, I think it was. Pichalski, I saw a post yesterday.
Patrick.
Where he said, like, we're going to build now this thing because we have all this demand of people that want GTM engineer, but exactly what I just said, there's so much out there, but who says, what's the quality, right? And I think that's something they need to come right now, because otherwise this is just like, you know, there's everywhere, but nobody knows really what's good or not. So this, I think, something that makes sense what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few ways that one can kind of determine the quality of anyone at their line of work. The first obvious example is how many other people recommend them, and this is kind of where case studies and social proof comes in. And this has always been something. It always will be something that matters. And if every single person on the planet or one very important person recommends the work that you do, like if Alex Ramosi sent me a recommendation saying, this guy is the best go-to-market engineer on the planet, I would probably get a lot of business from that. Or if I got 100 people saying that I was really, really good at what I do. Now, for people who already have that and are competing with other people who have that same level of recognition, or for everyone who doesn't have a lot of that, well, then you need to think about what this role actually is. Like, what value are you delivering in this role? And I think if you look at it from enough perspectives, it always kind of comes down to judgment. A good go-to-market engineer can ingest like a really messy input and multiple messy inputs and an overall idea of what the client wants. And you can use your own judgment, which is a mix of experience, a different way of thinking in systems and fundamental thinking, to then turn that messy series of aggregation of messy inputs into one cohesive system or multiple systems within a bigger system. And then you have to ask, okay, well, if that's the core value, how do I demonstrate that to the people? How do I show people that I am really good at these tasks? So then I think a good way of showing that to people would, number one, be create a lot of content where you are demonstrating that. You show publicly that you are thinking like this. So you think fundamentally. You create a lot of content where you describe to people how you've been solving problems. And just the level of detail that you go into those thoughts is a demonstration of how you think this way, and gets people to think, okay, this person is actually really bright or this person's really, really good at thinking this way and breaking down complex issues. So they're probably going to be really, really good at breaking down or complex business issues. And then aside from that, you can kind of demonstrate your judgment by showcasing different options of how one could solve a particular problem for a particular company, and then explaining why you picked one over the other. And I know these sound like simple concepts, but it gets a lot more powerful when you know why these concepts work. And then you can lean into that exact element that makes it work particularly well and focus in, put all of the energy into that one specific element and just push a lot of that content. So basically, what I would tell people is create an awful lot of content demonstrating your skill set, demonstrating, number one, your ability to use all of these tools, various tools, and take messy inputs in and create nice outputs out. And then just package that content in such a way where it doesn't require people to watch an hour-long video. They can see your thinking and see these high-quality outputs, but still see what came in and what was messy without having to click like a dozen links or watch an hour-long video. Because most people aren't going to watch full tutorial on YouTube.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. Agreed. Okay, I think that was great advice for sure. Yeah. And there's something, because there was some time ago, maybe 10 months, where a lot of people did that. Like I remember Jack Hayward did it, and there was some people that just basically showed what they were doing on play tables and stuff like this. But it's getting a little bit lower. People now just post like software, like they just had everywhere affiliate stuff, like use this and that. But it's like, I'm always thinking like, if I'm a client, do I give a fuck what they tell me about the software? No, like for who they do that, right? They do that maybe to make some money on the side. But I think like if I'm still running agencies, but I'm not focusing on it. I'm focusing on my coaching, on my this stuff. But like what I would do is exactly what you say, like basically demonstrate how I solve problems, because that's what the client wants to see. He doesn't want to see what kind of text they use, whatever. In the end, it's about how you solve problems. That's what
exactly.
That's because Eric blew so up, because Eric showed live, okay, this is how it's done.
Exactly. Like fundamentally, a go-to-market engineer, most technical roles are problem-solving roles. And I mean, you could argue every position that a company hires is solving a particular problem. But fundamentally, most of these technical roles involve you coming in and helping the company solve multiple problems. You are a problem solver. So that is different to, for example, an outbound agency. An outbound agency, if your positioning is quite literally just to bring in pipeline, then you want to demonstrate how good you are at doing that and how much pipeline you could bring in for a company. So although some technical breakdowns and all of these strategy stuff is helpful because it demonstrates that level of thinking and differentiates you from other people, it's really just an act of differentiation as opposed to an act of demonstrating your quality. Whereas if you're a go-to-market engineer, or you're demonstrating this engineering level thinking or engineer level thinking, it really is actually about demonstrating all of this stuff, not just to differentiate yourself, but actually as a means of directly showing people the quality of your work. And another good way of thinking about this is if you go to more in-person events, or if you go to more podcasts, if you go to more events where you're, I guess this is a terrible way of putting it, but you're forcing people to listen to you for an extended period of time. So you don't have that risk of losing their attention like you would with a YouTube video. You have a much longer amount of time that you have with them where you can then actually walk through their problems and solve them in real time. So it's kind of like an audit, but you don't need to get them to commit to an audit that they are going to think is a sales call. So if you are a really good go-to-market engineer watching this, post more content, post the work that you're doing that is actually good, go to more in-person events and just talk to people and help them solve their problems. And what you'll notice is when you just solve problems with them verbally, out loud, they're going to be amazed and they're going to realize, okay, this is way too much for me to do. I can't do all of this. I don't have the skill sets that you've just ignored are naturally going to be involved in solving this problem. How much do you cost to solve this for me? And you'd be amazed how many opportunities you get from simple acts like that. Also, if you're in group chats and things, when somebody asks a question, answer the question with a certain level of detail that just shocks people. This doesn't mean make stuff up and sound smarter than you are. Just give them an actually helpful answer, as if they were a client. And that, I think, is how you can stand out as a go-to-market engineer.
I love it, man. I think it's great advice, man. Awesome. Okay, so let's go a little bit, obviously, in the Clay Club. So, how did you start all of that thing? Because I think when you started it, like a few months ago.
I think I started in October or November.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because I was one of the first one joining, I believe. Right? I remember.
Yeah, you were, exactly. I mean, the reason I started that in the first place is because, when I went back into the agency space, I realized that I didn't have that much leverage because a lot of the work that I had done was on behalf of other agencies. And I was missing a lot of that social proof element. I had social proof and case studies from agencies, but I didn't really have the case studies from their end clients, or I couldn't really use them as much. And ultimately, if I was working with companies more like their end clients, that's really what matters. It doesn't really matter if an agency recommends me, because in the SMB world, that could just be my friends recommending me because they're my friends. So I quickly realized, okay, I can still sign clients, but if I want to grow at the rate that I want to grow, I need something else. So what else can I do? I can't get all of these big reputable names in Europe or in the US to refer me directly, or even if I could, it's going to take me too long. I first need to convince them to let me do work for them, and then I need to get a referral from them, and so on and so forth. I said, okay, is there any other way that I can piggyback off of their success already? I said, okay, well, what if I set up a community? What if I got all of these cool people in one group and naturally position myself in a position where I'm seen as an authority by all of these authorities in the space? And that gives me a lot of leverage. So now when I'm on sales calls, I can actually say, okay, listen, I've got all of these case studies that you probably don't care about that much. I don't say that, but I know that this is probably how they look at it. But I've also got this community where all of the top dogs that you have heard of are in, and they see me as an authority. So that's why I started the community. Now, initially, I wanted to start like a community in Ireland or in Galway. But Clay, I messaged Sia from Clay. That wasn't an option because there was already somebody running a Clay Club Dublin, and there weren't enough people in Ireland to justify like another club. So then I said, okay, well, what if we did like a European Clay Club? And I love the Clay team, but I can't remember if they got back to me or if they just said, no, that's not an option. And then I just said, okay, well, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to set up my own club anyway. I'm going to set up a WhatsApp group, invite all of these people. It couldn't be that hard. And that's what I did. I just invited a ton of people, got people hyped up, and was constantly asking people what they wanted in the community, and just got everyone to kind of engage and create like a genuinely fun community that everyone wanted to be a part of. That was still business related, but kind of felt more like a fun, like a friendly group chat. Which is why I did it on WhatsApp as opposed to Slack or whatever else. Because if engagement is high, it creates this illusion that it's a humongous community, even if there are only 3 people engaging on a daily basis. So that's why I started the community. That's why it was Clay. That's why it was Europe. And now I'm in a lucky position where Clay are talking to me, trying to organize like a European event and whatever else. Whether or not I focus on still lean against the Clay branding and associate myself with Clay, that may change in time, because not because I have anything against Clay, but as somebody in the go-to-market space, I think it's my responsibility to recommend the best way of solving a problem, as opposed to the best way of solving a problem within the constraints of a particular tool. And so I think if I'm heavily influenced by my relationship with a particular tool, it will cloud my judgment and it'll stop me from recommending other tools that may be better for the task at hand. So that may affect the naming of the community at some stage, but for now it's still Clay Club Europe. Clay is still always going to play a big role in it, but yeah, we'll see. But that's why I started it. That's the role it plays.
And it grows fast. How many people are you in there?
We've got like 250 now. We grew to about 100 members in I think a week. In the first week of launch, we grew to about 100 members, I think, or maybe it was 2 weeks. And then I just slowly started growing it. Once we got to like 150, I stopped worrying about growing it and just kind of let it grow naturally. And now I'm at a stage where I'm very selective about the people that I let in, because I know, again, this sounds kind of like hippie-like, but negative energy is a lot faster at spreading than positive energy. So if you let one bad person into the community, it can kind of ruin that whole vibe that I've tried to create for the past few months. So I'm really, really selective about the people that I let in and the quality of the people that I let in. And I always try and make sure the way I grew it so fast was I focused on getting people that other people really respected in the space, and also people in my own personal network. That's it. Yeah, that's exactly why I came to you. And I got all of them into the community, and then it's a lot easier for you to get everyone else into the community, because they're like, okay, do you want to join a community that has Johannes? And everyone's like, yes, I would love to join the community with Johannes. And then you can get, and then everyone else kind of joins naturally because they hear about it online or on LinkedIn, and then everyone wants to join. But you just need to get that initial kind of burst of energy, and then everyone kind of naturally will start joining incrementally over time.
Cool. I like it. Awesome. And then you basically build this different kind of the break. What is it called? Breakfast? No, breakup. How you call it? Break room.
Oh, the break room. Yeah. So we've got the room for the conversations, and then we've got a room for like engagement and for people to kind of engage with each other's content. And then we've got the guest room. So every week we host like this weekly call with like cool people. We had you on, we had Patrick on, we had Nick from Hey Reach on. We had a ton of cool people on. And it's just this open format, casual conversation where anyone can jump and ask questions. The guests can tell us about themselves. I record it and post it on YouTube then. And it's valuable for the community guests. It gives me an opportunity to talk to these cool people that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And it also gives me a lot of content. And that's another selfish reason that I set all of this up, is because now I have 2 LinkedIn posts every single week that are promoting this thing that wouldn't have existed otherwise. And I have a full YouTube video that's an hour long that I wouldn't have had otherwise as well, that I get to post every single week. But yeah.
That's great, man. The same reason why I'm doing the podcast. I mean, I mostly started it. I mean, if I tell you why I started it, like basically we did an agency Velocity. I don't know if you were still part of that in this time. Levi said like, everybody needs a personal brand. Everybody needs to go on YouTube. And he really was like, I'm pushing us. Like, you need to go to YouTube, especially me. He was like, Johannes, you need a YouTube channel, blah, blah. And I was always like, no. And then he was like, okay, let's do a competition. So we did a YouTube competition. Obviously, I'm very competitive. I was like, fuck me, I want to win that shit, right? I'm like, okay. So when I do a YouTube, then I do a fucking podcast, because that's what I love doing, right? Just talking to people and stuff like this. I was like, so I did podcast at this time. I already did my first one at this time. Was running and still over Rockstar Lead Generation. I think I had like 3 or 4 videos on this one. But then I was like, nah, and then I put it down. But then when Lewis didn't stop telling me I have to run my own YouTube channel. And one time I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. And I remember I did my first video. You can check it out, guys, if you want to check my first video ever, where I spoke about 75 Hard, my experience with 75 Hard, but I run it basically with a group of like 17 people in Agency Velocity. And only 2 made it until the end. And right now I'm running it again. It's the 3rd time that I'm running it, the 2nd time with a group. We started with 15, I believe, and now we are like 5 or 6. So a little bit more, because I'm leading it properly, so a little bit more still in. But you see, like, it's just like, it's not for everyone, because it's a really tough workout, right? But why I'm telling you this, because this was the video that I scripted, and I had a teleprompter, and I did it from there. And then Larry watched it, and it was like, I was like, hey, hopefully he likes it, and blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, it's nice, Johannes, but it's not you. I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, no, man, you're so much better unscripted. Just don't fucking script your shit. And I'm like, you know what, actually, you're maybe onto something. So I did my 2nd video unscripted, and this blew up. And since then, I only do everything unscripted. I have 0 script. I prepare nothing for these calls. I just go on, like, let's have a cool conversation. You know what I mean? And I do the same when obviously, when I write my raw and unscripted that I do on Thursday, I have a topic, but I'm also just rambling. I'm using my whiteboard, for example, to have a little bit more structure, at least. At the start, I didn't even have hooks, nothing. I just like, hey, it's me, right? It's scripted. Right? And people say like people always wrote me, Johannes, you have such great content, but you could have more structure. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, bro. But I grew it to 9K in 8 months, which is not too bad, right? So like, you know,
that's very
make it better. And then you can give me advice, you know? So like yeah, you know what I mean? I just love being me and being raw and authentically me, because I think, especially now with AI taking over and everything is AI scripted and blah, 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 you know, everything sounds the same. Like, you know, like it's just what it is. And like, if you just have somebody raw, and that's, I believe, why I grew so fast, because just people like the authenticity.
Yeah, and I mean, your energy is infectious as well. Like sometimes Like sometimes I get distracted and I'll start scrolling through YouTube shorts or something, and one of your videos will pop up. And I just have it playing on in the background. I forget what you're even saying after like 3 turns, but just the energy and you're talking, it's just infectious. And I think you lose that when you script it. It also makes calls just a whole lot easier. And you can just pump out like 5 calls a week as opposed to one very strict formatted one that just feels uncomfortable and that gets you kind of thinking too much about it. Yeah, I think it's working. Like 9K followers in 8 months is amazing.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. And like I said, I do it because I love it, right? It's just like at the start, obviously, I tell you a story, right? This is quite interesting. I met a guy from Ireland. Maybe you know him. Rob is his name. He's quite big, a fitness guy, like a little bit of a smaller guy, but he's massive in the fitness. Rob Lipset.
Rob what?
Rob Lipset.
Oh, I don't know him personally, but I've heard of him. I've seen him, yeah.
Yeah, right. Rob Lipset, he's big in Marbella because he has a massive Irish scene here, like, maybe, right? There's a lot of Irish people and he's leading them a little bit, so that's the feeling that I have. Him and James, right? Him and James, they're both these guys, they're leading the Irish community, and he has the Round Club every Sunday. And when I started my YouTube channel, I think he has like, I don't know how many subs, 800K subs, or even a million, I don't know, like he has a lot of subs on YouTube. And I was like, let's ask him when I have the opportunity, right, what he gives me on advice, and I said, you know what, Rob, like, if you could give me like one advice, I want to start my YouTube channel, okay, what would it be? And I was expecting God knows what, I don't know, whatever. He's going to give me like strategy or stuff that I can do. And he just said, very simple, John, make 100 videos. Make 100 videos. Because if you make 100 videos, you're in the top 5% of YouTubers. And I was like, what? You don't believe that. But if you think about it, 80% only fucking consume, or maybe 85%, then maybe 10, 15% make content, and really only 5% make more than 100 videos.
Yeah.
And I have almost 200, I think, or something like that. I started in July, bro, and I have almost 200. Let me see how much I have. I don't even know, bro. But I have a lot. I have...
I'm just going to open it.
204 videos I have now. Right?
204?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, obviously including shorts, but still, right? So like I'm really on it. And like I have, for example, like last time I had a short break of 2-3 weeks because I got a new editor now. I'm leveling up now. I'm leveling up the game. Before I was just having my re-editing it, like blah, 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 because I really didn't care. It was also the one that scripted editing. But now I'm leveling up a little bit with the editing because I just, you always want to get better. You always want to grow. You always want to, you want to give more value even to your people. So I have a great new editor. So guys, the content now, we're already before. This video is already edited by the new editor, so you're gonna have direct see what's going on here. But like, I want to just not grow up this whole thing and make it better. My goal next year is going on 50K. That's what I want to achieve. And yeah, so normally like when I have a goal, I fucking do it, right? So like nothing stops me. And so that's why I want to make it, that's why I had the idea to just put in more quality in the thing, like really think about hooks and this kind of stuff. That and when I started, bro, I was just like, this is me, John is running scripted. Today I talk about this and that, right? It was just like this, right? And now I'm putting a little bit more structure into it now to see how people like it. Otherwise, if they don't like it, I have to go back again to just to ramble. But yeah. Awesome, man. Yeah, okay, cool. So what's the bigger goal or vision that you have also with the Clay Club?
Just to build a good community that people are constantly wanting to engage with. There is no real end goal with it. Again, ultimately, it was just a lever for me to use for my agency. But now to kind of continue to make it valuable and not just kind of build something and then forget about it. I just want to continuously keep people engaged and make sure that it's something fun that people want to use on a daily basis. And that I can keep leveling up the guests that I have every week. So that my content is better, and then also that the members of the community get more value from it. And there's no real goal other than that. I don't have a certain amount of members that I want to hit, because I think if I focus on that too much, the quality of the community will go down. So it's really like my main focus is engagement. If the engagement within the community can continue to improve or stay at where it's at, I'll be more than happy.
Cool. I love it, man. Awesome. And I think you're a great leader with that. So honestly, I really enjoyed the vibe that was in there. I have to say that because I'm in a lot of groups, and that this is like, honestly, obviously everybody of us is for sure in a lot of groups, but this is really one of the groups that I really enjoy. And so that's why props to that. Awesome. If people want to join, like, how could they, if they watch that and say, like, hey, you know what, this is cool, I like these two guys, maybe I want to join what they're doing, how can they join your group?
Yeah, if they want to join, they can DM me on LinkedIn. Tell me why they want to join, what value they can add, and if it makes sense, I'll add you. There's no invite link or anything because I don't want people joining if they don't deserve to be in there.
Cool. So just DM Ruadhan on LinkedIn, and then try your best to get the value and then say we're okay, cool. I love it. Great shit. Okay, cool. So we come to the end. So like, if you, because you're quite young, normally I always ask the question, you need to know that. Normally I always ask the question, if you could give your younger self an advice, what would it be? But you're 19, so who do you want to give an advice? You're 10 years old older. But maybe if I can ask you, because you're good in the GTM world and stuff like this, so let's say if you would like to give yourself an advice when you started out with GTM and all that kind of stuff, what would that be?
There's a few things. So I was actually talking about this on a call that I was at yesterday.
Okay.
I think a few valuable things that are a few big problems that people get caught up on. And number one, deliverability. Number two, the AI space in general and how that's going to affect the progress of their life. And then number three, how they actually look at overwhelming problems, whether it's personal or business. So the first thing, I'll actually start from the last thing, fundamental thinking. I think it is a huge life skill to be able to approach big problems and break them down into simpler and simpler and simpler problems and take it step by step. Thinking as if you're a developer, even if you're not a developer. So if you have this huge, multifaceted, overwhelming problem that no human can solve at first glance, what is the first easiest thing that you can do? The easiest thing is to first ask yourself, okay, what is it that I'm trying to achieve here? What is the most basic question? And am I phrasing it correctly? Do I actually understand what it is I want to gain from solving this? Once you get that, ask yourself every other question that you can think of about how to actually move in the direction of reaching that solution. And eventually, when you read through all the questions and come up with all of them, one of them you'll be able to answer. You won't be able to answer most of them, but you'll be able to answer one of them. Once you answer one of them, it'll then give you enough information to continue progressing and answer one step at a time, solve each problem individually. And before you know it, you've solved the big, huge monster problem that you weren't able to solve before. Just by approaching it, where you map out everything you can solve, and then you start with the most upstream problem and work your way downstream. And start with the most upstream problem that is actually solvable. So that's the first thing. It's just thinking fundamentally. And if you just Google fundamental thinking, there's a ton of helpful books on it. And that's not how I learned it, but I know a lot of people who have learned thinking that way from that. And the second thing is like how AI is going to affect our lives. I have a take that I don't think a lot of people agree with it on this. But I think most people should stop worrying about whether or not their position or what they're doing is going to be affected by AI. Because the way I see it, we're going to live in a world soon where AI, let's imagine it gets really, really good and context memory window limits are no longer an issue. To remember everything you give it. And like you can build these big, huge infrastructures that can actually solve whatever problem it is you want. There are still two core fundamental problems. Number one, it doesn't have your own personal experiences. And it doesn't have that not because it can't store it, but because it hasn't lived your life. So unless you're really, really good at reflecting and giving it absolutely everything that happened in your life, which is just not possible, it's not going to be able to do that. So as your own personal guide, all it can do is look at problems from an unbiased point of view. It won't be able to do what you can do. So this is really important when you're looking at content. But in terms of business problems in general and how I think the economy will change, I think we're going to get to a stage where AI can do exactly what a human brain can do, but it's going to be nowhere near as efficient from an energy in versus energy in out equation. Like if you think about how much your brain can actually do, and then you think about how much energy you give it to do those tasks, like AI doesn't even come close. AI can do a lot more than your brain can do because you can basically deploy like 1,000 brains at once, but it costs a lot more in energy. So I think we're going to get to a stage where, number one, the barrier of entry to create a company is going to be a lot lower. So even though teams will get leaner, we'll get far more companies, and therefore that'll net about the same. And I think I made a comment about this the last day. So I think that's one element. And then another element is we're going to get to a stage where employers are going to look at problems, and we're going to get a new layer of decision making. It's going to be, okay, should this problem be done by a human or should it be done by an AI? And I think that decision is going to be made based on how much energy it requires to solve that problem. Because some problems, even though both can be done by either party, it actually will make more sense for a human to do it as opposed to an AI. And then the final thing, which is deliverability, and this is more like a cold email outbound thing. A lot of people are worried about email as a channel and whether or not it'll survive. My opinion is that you should look at it like a logarithmic function. You've got your y-axis, you've got your x-axis, and the function is going up, 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 and it's getting super, super hard. And then eventually it just kind of levels out and it stops getting any harder. Because fundamentally, if you look at all of these platforms, how hard can email make it for a business to send an email to another recipient before they ruin their entire platform? Like, the whole premise of the platform is that I can send an email to somebody else. As long as that exists, and that is the core problem, somebody in their basement is going to figure out a way to automate that and turn it into a business model. So it's always going to exist as a channel. I think we're at the stage now where it's kind of getting as close to as hard as possible as it's going to get. It's going to progressively get slightly harder, but so slightly that it's not even worth acknowledging. And it's always going to exist. So I wouldn't worry about that. The fundamentals of cold email are the same. Reach out to people who need your solution or will soon in the future need your solution. Frame your solution in such a way so they can actually understand that is exactly what they need. And then respond quickly enough that you can continue and lean on that momentum that you gathered from that conversation. If you do that, you'll be golden. And that's it. That they would be my 3 takeaways. The harder deliverability gets, even if I'm wrong and it keeps getting harder, if anything, it's a good thing, because companies are no longer able to do it themselves without employing somebody to handle that job themselves. So now you are more needed, and all of the other agencies that you're competing with, a lot of them won't be able to keep up. So now you've got less competition. So the equation actually looks like there's more demand and less competition. So it's a good thing, if anything. It's just that your operations get slightly harder. The cost per call gets slightly higher, but fundamentally you can sign more clients. So it would be my 3 takeaways. Fundamental thinking, stop worrying about AI ruining your life, and stop worrying about deliverability.
Love it, man. Fucking great. I think that was great advice, great value. I really appreciate you coming on, honestly. I think also, like, even we spoke before about this other topic, but I think also this other topic, if the right people are hearing it, it was super valuable, everything that you brought to the podcast. I really appreciate you coming on. And yeah, thank you very much for joining, man.
You're very welcome, Johannes. And we'll speak again. Maybe in Marbella.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I will definitely let you know that. Okay, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you like my stuff, like, always leave us a like, leave us a comment, give us a subscribe to my channel, and I see you in my next video. Take care.